Hello, fuckers. Welcome back. Welcome back to this. I came in way too hot in that intro, and for that I apologise. Um, I'm in a good mood today, though. I'm in a fantastic mood today. You may say. I think I finally got my green screen sorted. Um, yeah. Fuck off. All right. Yeah. I finally got my green screen sorted. I think. I've been last few episodes. I've been chopping and changing the situation and the placement of the damn thing, but I think I've got somewhere now that's like nice. It's the same sort of place as before, actually, like before I had the green screen. But yeah, now there's a green screen there, and I've sort of changed it up a wee bit. You could probably guess from the intro that this is a history of film podcast. So on that note, I'm gonna bring it way down, a lot more of a mellow uh, attitude and a lot more mellow tone. Um, if I'm gonna say it, you're gonna hear paper sounds, and I apologize for that. But I've got all my notes written down because once again, I probably didn't even have enough time to research this properly this week. Um, I mean, this is only the second episode of A History of Film, and that's because this is the second episode of History of Film, and it's like a month after the first one, and I do deeply apologize. I'm very sorry for that, but I've been a busy boy. Seeing people, seeing things, doing people. Yeah, what can I say? But yeah, I think. Actually, I was gonna say that it should be a lot more regular now, but I'm not even gonna promise that, because everything's sort of opening up again here in Northern Ireland, and we're gonna get right back to the fucking busyness. Actually, you know what I will say is this series will be sort of like a slow burner. It won't be like week after week or every 2 weeks or even maybe like not even every month, because Josh should be back on the pod soon, which is very cool. He finishes tech soon because he's a busy boy with tech, which is why he's not here. And I'm a busy boy, which is why I'm only really doing like every other week podcasts at the minute. I don't know if you've noticed. I don't know if we have enough listeners slash watchers to notice. But we're back with another episode of A History of Film. This week is sort of. I think I left the last one and sort of like I didn't know whether I was going to do like the 1890s or just jump into like straight into the 1900s or the 1900s, if you know what I mean. That's 1900 to 1910. And you know what? This is going to be like a focused episode, because the last one I sort of did the what did I do? Oh, I did the A Horse in Motion, I think it was called, and then I did the arrival of a train at La Ciotat station. This time, I'm only talking about one film for pretty much the whole thing, because I started doing the research, and I apologies if I stop sometimes just look about. I got a bearded dragon running about my room because she's being a bad bitch and attacking the other bearded dragon, so I had to bring her out. Yeah, so I was doing my research for this film, and I took up like fucking 6 pages. So I think this is gonna be an all-episoder type boy. Oh shit! I apologize for all the bumps and bangs. I'm very disheveled today. But yeah, I may as well stop beating around the bloody bush and tell you what film we're going to be talking about today. It is, of course, A Trip to the Moon, directed by Georges Méliès. Sorry, written, directed, produced, and starred in by Georges Méliès. He plays, what's the name of the fucking character? I'm gonna butcher this name to fuck, but it's, he plays Professor Barbin Fouly, or Barbin Fouly, one of those. It's a French film, if you couldn't guess by the name. Georges Méliès is a French man. The film was the film was released in 1902, so it was like still at the very start of the 1900s. But this film is highly, highly, highly influential, for a number of reasons. One, because Georges Méliès is just a fucking influential guy. He's very highly regarded within the history of cinema, or the history of film. And this film especially is very highly regarded in the history of cinema. And I'm going to explain more why later on, but I'll hit you with some bloody bullet points here that I've got. First of all, the cast is an ensemble of theatrical performers from Paris, which is what Georges Méliès liked to do a lot. He liked to sorry, my throat's all gaggy, as per, am I right? Georges Méliès liked to get theatrical actors from Paris, like all over Paris. Like, it wasn't just like one agency. He just found the best of the best and got them for each film. But he would get different actors for each film. It's not like a Tim Burton and Johnny Depp type situation where it's kiss in the middle every time. And Georges Méliès himself was like a theatrical performer, which really shows in this film. Once again, I'll explain more why later. But actually, yeah, this is something I should say right off the bat. If you haven't seen A Trip to the Moon, go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's only like 12 minutes long. Just so like whenever I reference things during this, you know what I'm talking about, basically. So if you haven't seen it, stop this now. But keep it on the tab. Like, keep this tab open. And go watch the film. Go away for 12 minutes. Come back and listen to the rest of the episode. It's not hard, It's not hard, Yeah. So, moving on. The film was based off, or it's widely thought that it was based off a novel by, again, I'm gonna butcher the name, Jules Verne. It was from 1865, and it's called From the Earth to the Moon. You can see comparisons, draw the comparisons, A Trip to the Moon. I'm no genius, but that took me, 2 seconds to do that? Wasn't even 2 seconds. As I mentioned before, this film is highly influential throughout all of cinema, and this is one of the main reasons why. A Trip to the Moon is regarded as the first sci-fi film ever made, or what would go on to be sci-fi. And if you're a fucking idiot and you don't know what sci-fi means, it means science fiction. Yeah, so because this was like the first sci-fi, it was obviously very like unprecedented in many ways, and it's because of that the film was such like a massive like hit whenever it came out. I think apparently it was whenever Georges Méliès was sort of peddling isn't the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? when Méliès was trying to distribute to studios, he was met with a load of, not backlash, he was declined quite a lot because the film cost so much to make. And I'm sorry to do this, but I will get into like all of it a lot more. But yeah, it cost a lot of money, let's just say that for now. Because it cost a lot of money, a lot of studios were like, nah, I'm not paying that amount of money for a goddamn film. But then Georges Méliès found a studio, or a producer even, and he said, right, I'll give you this film for free. I was like a wee trial run, just put it on your cinema, see what happens. And this executive or whatever was like, alright, we'll see how it goes. Cheers for giving it to us for free. So then they put this film on, and it was met with instant fucking uproar. It was class. And because of this, that executive went back to Georges Méliès and was like, right, I'll buy it off you, but I'll also give you a bit of compensation money for the I can't think of words today, and I'm very sorry. Yeah, you give it to him as a bit of compensation, like, sorry, it was such an inconvenience, I'll throw you a bit of cash. But yeah, that was fucking hell. Apologies if you can hear the sounds. I'm apologising for so much today, and I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry that I'm apologising so many times, and I'm very sorry that I have so many things to apologise for. My chair has decided that it's going to make every sound. But yeah, it wasn't even the fact that it was an instant success, just as it was released. When it was released, it was a massive success. It was I mean, it's a bit of a mad story. I'm not going to go fully into it, but basically whenever Méliès retired, all of his films disappeared because apparently he burned them all. But then a copy of A Trip to the Moon was found in I think it was the 60s. And then in 1993, I think I had it. Let me see. Yep, 1993. A hand-colored. What's a fucking word? I'm so sorry. A hand-colored original print of the film was found in 1993, and then this film was sort of like remastered and restored in 2011, and it was put out again there. Again, much more to come on that. This is just an intro, boys and girls. We're gonna get into the fucking meat and bones of it, okay? But yeah, I've already said this. This film has been a massive success. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. I don't even know if I used that term right. But yeah, it is and was Georges Méliès' most iconic work. And there's a scene, and if you've watched it, if you did what I said and went and watched it, you'd know there's a scene where the capsule of the spacecraft goes into the eye of the moon, and that is one of the most iconic scenes, or well, shots in cinema history. So iconic that I was actually thinking about getting that like a still from it, tattooed on my arm. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, so let's get into the fucking meat of this damn thing. First thing I want to talk about is the theatrical nature about it. I mean, again, if you've watched the film, you'll see that it's very theatrical. Like, it looks like it could have been like a play or a show that was in a theater. And I'm gonna get into why it looked like this. I've got 4 bullet points here. this doesn't even get into. This isn't like a full analysis or anything. This is just 4 bullet points, 4 things. Like as soon as I watched it, I was like, bang, 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 bang. First of all, the expressionistic painted on backgrounds. If you don't know what expressionistic means, expressionistic things or expressionism is something that uses emotion rather than like realism to portray, or well, it's a portrayal of emotion used to express like an artistic idea, I guess you could call it. So say like you had a scene of the sea, but instead of showing an actual fish, you would give sort of the feeling of a fish through like distorted shapes and shadows and shit like that. Expressionism is a lot of the time used for displaying like dark ideas and dark thoughts, but it's not solely for that. Like it's not in the handbook that you have to use it for like horror or for something sad or dark or depressing. It's just that's sort of like the easiest way to use it. If you ever watched Nosferatu, that's fucking expressionism on point. If you did or do film studies / moving image arts in A level, and actually I think we studied it in first year as well, you'll definitely have come across Nosferatu, and you definitely would have come across expressionism. This is the same sort of shit before I think expressionism was even a thing in film. I mean, the backgrounds of this are very, like, well, maybe not whenever they're on Earth, whenever they go to the moon, like it's very pointed, like backgrounds and objects are like really jaggedy and like distorted and shit. And that's sort of the whole point. It's to show their, sorry, I'm really struggling for words. It's to show that they're in a new environment, like an alien environment. And even, I mean, that bit was just on the moon, where everything, like the whole like background and everything was all like theatrical, and obviously it was painted on, because back then they didn't, or well, A, it would be cheaper to paint the background, and B, they didn't really have the resources to make like massive sets. They definitely didn't have CGI or green screen or anything like that. One of these bad boys didn't have one of them back in the day. Oh my god, I think this looks really shit now because it's gone darker. And that's the problem with using natural light, ladies and gentlemen, which again we'll come to later, because fucking Georges Méliès did it. He just fucking did it. What was I even saying? Yeah, so that was just sort of on the moon. All the like set and everything was very expressionistic, and I mean, I guess you could sort of say abstract, but not really abstract, because you can sort of tell what everything is. But yeah, that was just on the moon. Throughout the whole film, like the actions of the actors are really expressionistic as well, and big. And I think that's slightly due to the fact that there's no sound for the film, because again, it was a 1900s film, so it's not gonna have sound. I don't think the talkies were invented yet. I think that was 1920s. So yeah, if you don't have any sound, then how are you gonna portray what you're trying to say? You're gonna have to use really big actions to sort of show the audience what you're saying, rather than tell the audience what you're saying. And that was sort of something that we were taught especially in moving image arts, where they tried to get us to make films with as little dialogue as possible, so we could sort of explore this method of using actions rather than words to tell the story. Yeah, even even in terms of like just the actors, like the costumes and everything as well, were very like, this is a play sort of costumes. Like they're very detailed. Again, I know I'm using this word a lot, but they were expressionistic as well. Like obviously the thing wasn't in color, but it's sort of one of those things where your mind sort of fills in the colors itself, so you can tell what they're wearing was like really colorful and really extravagant. And then finally, the last bullet point I have here, which is like probably the most technically sound thing, like most technically sound point I have here. And I was actually very proud of this analysis, getting it fucking bang on right away. The camera is sort of placed, like, remember in the last episode, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. In the last episode of History of Film, I was talking about the arrival of a train at La Ciotat station and the placement of the camera, the angle of the camera, all played a part of the story and the style of the film to make it look like the train was coming towards you, to make sure the train was going across screen, going from small to large. This is sort of the same thing, but in that the camera is sort of placed where it's like, it's a high angle sort of, and you're looking down onto the set, much like an audience member in the seat of a theatre, which, I mean, you could say is just a coincidence, but it's not just a coincidence. It's never a coincidence in film. The placement of the camera is very, I mean, in any film you watch, the placement of the camera is 100% planned. That camera is put there to portray a certain meaning, and I think this is a meaning that Georges Méliès wanted to have, because he's a very theatrical guy. He got theatre actors to come in, so it would make sense that this theatrical sci-fi film that he's making has the perspective of an audience member at a theatre play, or whatever the fuck you call it. I don't like using the word play because it sounds like the fucking primary school nativity, but yeah, that's sort of like the feel that he was going for. That's what I think anyway. And one other thing that I sort of got from the film, I don't know if I was supposed to get this, probably not, but to me the film was so theatrical that it was almost comical in a way. Like, it felt very satirical, but that might just be me and my like seeing modern movies and having sound and everything, and the acting isn't so satirical. The acting is very realistic and serious, whereas this was like, they were all fucking arms everywhere, big facial expressions. But yeah, I thought it was sort of funny. Even the pyrotechnics, like whenever they're on the moon and sort of the alien things come out, and the guy just fucking bonks them on the head and then they're gone in a puff of smoke. I thought that was funny, and I don't know if I was supposed to find it funny or not. So if you found it funny as well, or if you didn't find it funny, leave a wee comment and say why you did or didn't, because I want to feel validated in what I'm saying. And you know, do your own research as well. Actually, that's something I meant to say at the start of the podcast. This is sort of just a very brief overview of what I'm talking about. Like, any episode I do of this, I'm not going to go fully in depth because I'd be sitting here for hours. It's just like a brief overview, and I know I said in the end of the last one that I put some keywords in the description, which I did, and you can go research them. But basically anything I say during this, go and research it, because I might be wrong. This is just my research. Why don't you go do your own research and prove me wrong? By God, I would love it if you proved me wrong. No, joking, I don't really care if you prove me wrong or not, but it would just be a nice thing to have for you. So now we're going to move on to the more practical side of shooting this goddamn thing. And remember how I said in the wee intro bit that the film was like really dear to make, or the film cost a lot, which is why the studios didn't want them. Well, you're gonna get a bit of maths thrown your way, and I have to pick up my thing so I know what I'm talking about. So, the film cost Georges Méliès 10,000 franc to make, and if you don't know what a franc is, it's the currency that they use in France between. Did I write it down here? Well, it was early 19 or late 1800s, early 1900s currency. So 10,000 franc he spent on it, which at the time was an incredible amount of money. And here's what it is. Here's some fucking maths for you, just so you can fully sort of understand how much this film cost. So, the French franc compared to today's currency of the English pound, 10,000 franc would be £1,324.80. But that's yesteryear compared to today. So obviously it didn't cost Georges Méliès 1,300 and fucking whatever pounds to make the film. You gotta do a conversion between the rate of the pound in 1902 compared to now. So that's what I'm gonna do now. 100 quid in 1902 is the equivalent of £12,000 today. So if you're good at maths, you can probably figure it out already. So £1,324.80 in 1902 is equivalent to £167,000 today. Which again, you may say, well, that's not a lot of money. There's movies being made for millions these days. But here's the goddamn thing. This was early cinema. Not a lot of money was being pumped into cinema. So if you think about it, say this was, I don't know. Somebody's come up with a new invention, and it's cool, like, but it's not it's not gonna save a life or anything. And somebody's gone, right, we're putting like fucking 10 billion into that. That's a fucking lot of money, but you never know. In 1,000 years from now, that could be fuck all money. We could be on the fucking ridiculons in 1,000 years from now. You just never know. The film also took 3,000 it's about to say 3,000 months to complete. It took 3 months to complete, which again at the time was a large amount of time to be making a film. Because if you think about it, back then, I mean, this was the first sci-fi film ever made, so that means all the films before that were very realism films. So you wouldn't need to build sets or do costume or even do multiple takes, to be honest. So you would get it done fairly quick. I'd say like within a month maybe. And the films were a lot shorter back then as well. Like even the length of this film was quite long for a film in 1902. The arrival of a train was 15 seconds long or something like that. It was probably longer than that. But it was like films rarely got over like the 2-minute mark or 3-minute mark back in the day. So for this film to be 12 minutes long, obviously is going to take way longer. Yeah, so we've established it cost loads to make. It took so long to make, but that's not the only mad thing about this film. And to be honest, all of this next point is about all of Georges Méliès' films. Georges Méliès had a studio, and for some reason I didn't fucking write the name of the studio down, so I'm gonna have to look it up here. But essentially this studio that he built was one big, like, it was a big greenhouse. Basically it was built like a greenhouse, aka is one big window. Shout out to Joel Ray for that one. That's a wee inside joke between us, and I apologise for alienating you guys as an audience, but apologies, I just went silent there. Star Film Ranch. Star Film Ranch is what the studio was called. As I was saying there, I apologise for making an inside joke there that alienates the audience. I apologise. We're gonna move on from it. So the reason Georges Méliès had this big greenhouse studio is because that would allow the maximum amount of light to enter the studio. Because back in the day, they didn't have big lighting systems, big lighting rigs. A lot of it was you were relying on natural light, which of course is an obstacle. But Georges Méliès had this big fucking greenhouse thing that just let in light. And it was because of this, Georges Méliès, especially for this film, had a very strict filming routine. So in the mornings, he would use the mornings for planning that they shoot. It's a bit lazy, fuck's sake, George. Plan to shoot like months before or a month before. But yeah, he would use the morning to plan the day's shoot. Then he'd use like the prime sunlight hours to shoot the film. Then whenever it got darker, he would go to the theater and fucking start. What's the word? I was gonna say converting, but it's not converting. Basically start making the film, start splicing it up and everything, creating the film, and then he would use the nighttime to go watch other films and other shows. Yeah, so that is. Oh, I apologize for the noises. That's sort of like the practical side of, the studio as a whole, basically, and sort of like the shooting of the logistics of the film. I'm now sort of going to move on to more I know I said the practical elements before, but this is more like the technical side of things. So, this film especially being the first sci-fi film, there was a lot of special effects that Georges Méliès used. Again, go watch the film if you haven't already. There's a lot of things that I was sort of looking at it going, how the fuck did they do that? And now I'm going to tell you how they did that. Is through a technique called substitution splice, or a substitution splice, which I had to look up what it meant, basically. And basically what it is they would have a scene, they would be doing the scene, and then whenever it got to the point where something needed to change, they would stop the film, manipulate the set, or do whatever, put things in, take things out, whatever. Then everyone stays obviously in position, and then okay, we're all sorted, bang, start shooting. And then Georges Méliès would like very meticulously splice the film after and put it together so it looks seamless. Which whenever I read that and sort of watched it over and over again, to me it feels like one of the very first uses of stop motion film, or the very first examples of stop motion film, because that's basically what stop motion is, except with stop motion it's just a load of pictures, but you take a picture, stop, change something, take another picture, and bang, that's a movement or whatever. So it is sort of the same thing, if you know what I mean. I might be talking shite, to be honest, but to me it feels like the same thing, and you never know, it could be regarded as a form of stop motion animation. Again, do a bit more research on that than I did. That's sort of just my wee opinion. But yeah, this substitution splice wasn't like the only way he got things done on the set. I mentioned before how the professor would bonk the aliens on the head, and then they would disappear in a puff of smoke. So obviously there was pyrotechnics involved as well for cover-ups. so they could get the aliens out of the way and everything. And then there was like machinery as well on set to sort of move things in the scene without having to stop everything, move stuff, and start again. So yeah, there's just a few goddamn techniques that I used. Another one that I mean, you're sort of gonna have to look this up yourself. I didn't really get it. Well, it's not that I didn't get it, it's that I didn't do enough research into it. But another technique that Méliès used was a pseudo-tracking shot, which oh shit, I apologize. I realized whenever I swivel the chair, I'm moving the green screen. Obviously, a tracking shot is whenever you've got a character or whatever, an object in front of the camera, and you physically move the camera to track in. That's the difference between a tracking shot and a zoom, is the camera stays static and the lens moves in or pushes in for a zoom, whereas the tracking shot is the camera physically moves in. But yeah, so I know what a tracking shot is, but this is a pseudo tracking shot, spelled PS, where I've lost it on my page, PSEUDO, pseudo, I think that's pronounced pseudo tracking shot, which apparently was a technique that Méliès himself invented like a year prior to this. So there you go. He was a smart boy, Méliès, and he apparently used this pseudo tracking shot for the aforementioned face on the moon shot, because you can see whenever the capsule is sort of going towards the moon, the camera sort of moves in with it, and it goes there we go. In terms of sound in the film, I've already mentioned before that the film itself was silent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that oh, where am I time-wise? Shit. Camera's still going, so that's cool. Okay, we're good. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that Georges Méliès wanted the film to be watched in silence. A lot of theaters back then would, or film theaters, would have, I mean, especially this film, I don't know if it's the same for other films, but Georges Méliès wanted a narrator in the cinema and a live orchestra doing like a musical score or sound effects. But the thing is, because Méliès never like commissioned a score for the film, he sort of just leave it up to the theaters to make a musical score to go along with the film. So it was basically just like what the orchestra thought would suit the film. That is until I think it was for the 2011 restoration. There was, yeah, I got it here, Nicolas Godin and Jean-Benoit Dunkel wrote an original score for that. Yeah. But never sort of researching this, it reminded me that there is a theatre in Liverpool. Shout out to my uni days in Liverpool. There's a theatre, a film theatre called, actually I think it's just a theatre and they've got a cinema screen as well. It's called the Liverpool Philharmonic, or Liverpool Philharmonic. They have a cinema that it's like it is basically an old time cinema theatre, and they put on like an offer that you can watch classic films accompanied by an orchestra, so you can see, or you can experience what it was like for people back then to enjoy cinema. I remember my uni class went to see It's a Wonderful Life, which by the way is an unreal film. They went to see It's a Wonderful Life around Christmas time, and I didn't go for some reason, and I can't remember why I didn't go. But yeah, I got all these Snapchats of people in the theatre. I can't remember if there was an actual orchestra there or not, or if they were just in the theatre. I think they might have been just in the theatre, but I reckon it would have been cool as fuck to see that. But yeah, as I was saying before, the film was a massive success. And it was such a spectacle as well that it wasn't just a success in France. It was actually, and let me get these cunts' names right, because they are cunts. Sigmund Freud, Sigmund Lubin, William Selig, and Thomas Edison all pirated the film and distributed it to cinemas across America. Yeah, they distributed the film across America, so it obviously became very big in America after that then as well. So yeah, I'm gonna say their names one more time: Sigmund Lubin, William Selig, and Thomas Edison. You can all fuck off. Don't be messing with my boy George like that. Georges Méliès was apparently not very pleased, which I get. If somebody stole one of my films and gave it to America, I'd probably be happy about it, because it means more people are watching my film. But yeah, I can see that if my films were a massive success, I wouldn't want people pirating them, because then I wouldn't get monies for them. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna sort of wrap up the whole A Trip to the Moon thing here. I've got a list of a few other things that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't have enough time. I mean, we're at 43 minutes now, and I've still got a wee bit more to say on A Trip to the Moon. So as you can see, it took up the whole fucking episode. And this is sort of just like a brief overview as well. I could have went way more in depth. But yeah, if you want to learn more about A Trip to the Moon, Georges Méliès, and sort of just history or film history in general, if you've not seen it already, there's a movie called Hugo by Martin Scorsese that goes into, it's all about the history of film basically, and there's a large section of it, I believe, about Georges Méliès and A Trip to the Moon. To be honest, I haven't watched the film in a long time, so I'm a bit fuzzy on the actual events of the film. But what I can remember is there's a train station and a big clock, and yeah, I remember the scenes about Georges Méliès and A Trip to the Moon, and there's stuff about automatons as well, which is very cool. So it's Hugo, directed by Martin Scorsese, which came out in 2011, a whole 10 years ago. Damn. So here's some honorable mentions for the episode. The Nickelodeon was invented in the 1900s, and again, I forgot to fucking write down the year. We were going so well, didn't have any hiccups for quite a while. And because I got my phone close to the zoom, it's making noises. Yeah, so it sort of flourished between 1905 and 1915, which I'm just realizing I did write down here. But a Nickelodeon was basically like it was a cinema in America. Actually, I think it was like the first sort of theater specific to film and specific to cinema. And it makes sense if you listen, or if you look up what each part of the word means, like the word Nickelodeon. Obviously, the nickel is a 5-cent coin in America, and that was the price of admission into the Nickelodeon, which is very cheap. I think it'd be class if cinemas cost 5p here. And then the Odeon, and Odeon is a Greek word, I believe, for a roofed theatre. So if you put them together, 5 cents cinema. So there you have it. That's a Nickelodeon. Joan of Arc is another film from the 1900s. I may say as well, the reason I've got this list is because I didn't fully go into what they are. I just know that they were things that I wanted to talk about whenever I looked up all the events of 1900s cinema fucking a month ago. So I know that was important, so go watch Joan of Arc. I've also written down here Thomas Lincoln Talley, so go look him up. Warner Brothers was, I believe, started in 1903. Yeah, there you have it. Variety magazine is the first magazine dedicated to film. Was starting to be produced in 1905. I've also written down here The Story of the Kelly Gang, 1906. Must be another film. The Syncroscope, which I don't know why I wrote that down, because I sort of looked it up after, like just before I came on here, and it was to do with frequencies and shit. I think it was to do with lights, actually, syncing up frequencies of lights. You know, I'm bitterness, so I may as well look up the Syncroscope again, just so I can give you an overview of what it is. A Syncroscope is a AC electrical power system. Syncroscope is a device that indicates the degree to which two systems are synchronized with each other. For two electrical systems to be synchronized, both systems must operate at the same frequency, and the phase angle between the systems must be 0. The two polyphase systems must have the same phase sequence. Syncroscopes measure and display the frequency difference and phase angle between two power systems. Only when these two quantities are 0, it is safe to connect the two systems together. Connecting two unsynchronized AC power systems together is likely to cause high currents to flow, which will severely damage any equipment not protected by fuses or circuit breakers. This must have been invented then, in the 1900s. And the final thing I'm going to talk about here, what time am I on? Okay, I've got, I think, just about enough time to talk about this. The Volta Cinematograph, was the first cinema, or the first theatre dedicated to film in Ireland, or Dublin, and I think it's now known as the Volta Electric Theatre. Is built in, or it opened, in 1909. So there's a bit of trivia for you Irish folk, such as myself. Yeah, so that concludes the 1900s, or more specifically, a trip to the moon. I might do another 1900s episode in the future. I'm not going to do one sort of back-to-back to this one. But yeah, I think I will do another 1900s episode in the future whenever I've finished this whole sort of series. I might go back over the periods and fill in the blanks. Yes, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. The same as last time, I'm going to have the keywords from my notes in the description. So have a wee look for that. Do your own research. Find out more things. Learn more things, tell me more things. But yeah, that'll do for now. Yeah, thank you for watching Documented Bits. We're hopefully back to regularly scheduled programming soon. Yeah, so just keep an eye out for future episodes. If you want to follow our socials, which is where you'll see about new episodes, we are Documented Bits on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, on Twitter and Instagram, we're at Documented Bits. If you want to follow me, you can follow at The Old Beardo on Instagram, or at Moon Productions, which is my film and photography page. If you want to follow Josh on Instagram, he's at RealJoshyT, and on Twitter, he's at ThatJoshThomas. Thank you ever so much for watching / listening, and I'll catch you next time. Good night.